Welcome to the 12 Report with Blessings Mosugu, and these are the headlines. NLC mobilizes workers for industrial action against Dangote as Pengassan strike continues. Kirawa community seeks military deployment following Boko Haram attack. Netanyahu welcomes Trump's peace proposal, rejects Palestinian statehood. And as usual, we have Afia Hagen joining from the United Kingdom, Tolulope Adileru Balogun in South Africa, Bongani Siziba will be joining from Italy, and Austin Azu is currently in Imo State. We also have Chizoba Anyowe who will join us from Plateau, and Sumeya Abubakar joining from the FCT. We've got the details in a moment. We're starting off in Cape Town, South Africa, where more than 7,000 delegates from over 100 countries have converged on Cape Town as the 5th African Energy Week gets underway. The continent's biggest energy summit is putting Africa at the center of global conversations, not only on oil and gas, but also on renewables, investment, and the urgent drive to close the energy access gap. Tolulope Adileru Balogun is standing by with the latest. Tolu, good afternoon. Let's begin with the opening ceremony. What would you say stood out the most today? All right, Tolulope, we'll definitely circle back to find out more about the gathering. But in the meantime, the industrial dispute between the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengassan, and the Dangote Group has reached a stalemate following failed talks mediated by the federal government. Negotiations aimed at resolving the impasse ended without agreement, deepening tensions across Nigeria's oil and gas sector. Pengassan President Festus Osifo insists the union will not suspend its nationwide strike until all recently laid-off workers at the Dangote refinery are reinstated. Meanwhile, the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, has described the situation as critical, warning that prolonged disruptions could destabilize Nigeria's oil and gas sector, a key pillar of the country's economy.
The way you've terminated them, it will be extremely difficult for them to find job anywhere. Some of these people are trainees, and you said they have committed sabotage. So if they go home like that, there is no other company they will get job to do again in Nigeria, because they have seen them as saboteurs. So these are careers that will be damaged if proper remedy is not put in place. So that is why, for us, our position has been very clear. You have to reinstate these people. If you reinstate them tonight, we will call off our action tonight. But unfortunately, that reinstatement did not happen, and we were not able to reach conclusions on the subject.
We need to limit the damage to the economy of this action. We need to wrap it up, we need to resolve it, and we need to have workers going back to work. We need to have the gas flowing. We need to have crude flowing as inputs into production, which is where the economy is arrived at right now, where we are able to add value, where we are able to grow the economy, and we don't want that momentum to be broken.
The Nigerian Labour Congress has directed its affiliate unions to begin urgent mobilization and prepare for a nationwide industrial action against the Dangote Group, accusing the conglomerate of sustained anti-worker practices. This came as the nationwide strike declared by the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria on Monday against the refinery paralyzed operations at key oil and gas regulatory institutions. Also, the National Industrial Court in Abuja restrained Pengassan from embarking on its industrial action against Dangote Petroleum Refinery and Petrochemicals FZE. However, Pengassan declared that it was not aware of the court injunction, arguing that court orders or processes were served via a court bailiff and not through social media. The rift between Pengassan and the Dangote refinery is far from over. Now, after a mediation session by the Ministry of Labour on Monday, the 29th of September, questions still remain about where both sides stand. The Nigerian Labour Congress is also weighing in, warning it could step into the matter if workers' rights are not respected. For more on this developing story, our correspondent, Sumaya Abubakar, is standing by live in Abuja as we speak. Sumaya, what did we learn from yesterday's mediation?
Good afternoon, Blessings. Yes, I mean, the clips that were shown earlier literally showed Nigerians what really happened. Now, this meeting, of course, took place until 1 a.m. And after coming out, they say that they are going to reconvene today, 2 p.m., to start, this same meeting all over again. Now, so far, we know that they have not gotten any leeway. No leeway at all on this matter. And there is still a pushback from Dangote refinery as well, considering the strike by the Pengassan. But then another, situation that is being expected is that hopefully the mediation by the Labour and even other ministers would help ease the situation. But currently it is stiff. I'll tell you, so far it's a case of the two elephants are fighting and the grass is suffering because Nigerians are feeling the brunt only on day 2 of this strike.
So, Sumaya, what is the NLC saying about the rumor of it going on strike? Because, I mean, we heard someone talking about the fact that they wouldn't back down if the decisions are not made on time. So what's the NLC's response to these rumors?
So we were able to contact the spokesperson of the NLC, where he kept repeating the same word. Yes, we will be joining the strike if Dangote refinery does not give our union, the right to unite, because according to the law. Now, this is what he kept repeating, even though we tried on getting to know more details of it. But I think it was still a bit, they're still trying to hide the situation. But then, yeah, the rumors leaked out, and it's been confirmed that NLC is actually considering joining the strike, and there could be an underground mobilization around going on from the NLC in order to put their members together, because this is something that they are saying that they feel Dangote has been taking the rights of workers based on heavily on the sacking of the workers that he did recently, saying that because those workers were part of the Pengassan, Nipeng, and NLC in general, takes them or does not give them the right, for them to enjoy that right as Nigerians and labor workers. So they are saying they are on it, they're waiting, they're weighing the situation based on how the Dangote and Pengassan and, of course, the labor agreement would be, or the reconciliation meeting would turn out. That would be the deciding factor. But so far, they're saying if Dangote does not retract his steps, then definitely the NLC would be joining the strike soon.
Sumaya Abubakar, thank you for the update. Well, like we said, the Pengassan strike is far from over, and we still have News Central's Chizoba Anyowe also joining us from Jos, the Plateau State capital, for updates on the strike. Chizoba, can you tell us how Jos is currently reacting to the strike?
Good afternoon, Blessings. Here on the plateau, you can see behind me clearly, that's a police station, mobile police station here. And you can see sales going on here. So operation is ongoing, just as well as other fuel stations I visited earlier in the day. So many of them are on with their operations. There's no queue anywhere. No police station has been shut down. And so everything is going on peacefully. And so I have the state chairman of Pengassan and TUC in the state, in the person of Mr. Kenneth Sharma. And he's here to give us updates on the development on the plateau as regards this situation. Mr. Sharma, tell us what's happening here.
Yes, thank you. What is happening now is that there's a directive for us to down our tools, and all Pengassan members have complied. I've personally gone around and I've checked, and everybody has complied. That's the situation. So we are just waiting for further directives after the meeting with the Dangote, Pengassan, and the federal government. That's what we are waiting for.
Okay, Mr. Kenneth, so many people are worried whether to start buying fuel and then these other products, so keep in stock in case they are also meant to shut down operations. What are you saying to the public concerning this situation?
We Nigerians, we love panic buying. I will not say don't buy, but also advise that Nigerians should do the needful, because we don't know what it is snowballing into. Because if you have watched recently, NLC has also backed this very strike. The TUC has also backed. So by the time all these people by the time this strike will commence fully, all these filling stations like this one I'm telling is going to be an issue. But right now, I think they say it's teaching time saves money.
All right, so blessings, that's it from the plateau, especially hearing from the horse's mouth, Mr. Kenneth Sharma.
All right, thank you so much, Isobaniawe, for the update. The fifth edition of the Africa Energy Week is still ongoing, and this is happening in Cape Town, South Africa, where more than 7,000 delegates from over 100 countries have converged on Cape Town for this summit. We have News Central's Tolulokpe Adilewu Balogun, who's standing by with the latest. She tried to give us more updates earlier on, but I'd like to ask the question again. Tolu, if you can hear me, let's start with the opening ceremony. What would you say stood out the most from the conversations that were had at the opening ceremony?
I think blessings, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I think it was the fact that even the performance had a similarity, the messaging has been coming from the Africa Energy Week for the past several years now. And that message is that Africa will drill and Africa will do what is necessary to meet its energy needs. And that means that even if the world is moving towards a green and just energy transition, it will be difficult for you to ask countries like Nigeria, Angola, Libya, Egypt, which are all represented here and much more, to keep their rich resources while the rest of the world moves towards a just transition, while we have those resources and we're not supposed to touch them. So I think for me, the opening, sharing that thread of the conversation in terms of the fact that Africa is ready to drill, and Africa is ready to drill whether the world wants Africa to drill or not, is one of the things that stood out to me at the beginning of this. That performance really set the tone for what the chairman, the executive chairman of the African Energy Chamber said, and as well as set the tone for a number of the panels that we've observed today already.
All right, Tulu, it's quite ironic because this is very similar to the Onga summit. One of the things that stood out the most is the fact that the Nigerian vice president and his delegates and the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, were asking for one thing, which was a seat at the table. But beyond that, the vice president of Nigeria, Kashim Shettima, was also saying the same thing that, they're spotlighting there in Cape Town about us being able to utilize our own resources and not having to import it. But beyond that, you also captured the protesters outside the venue. What were they asking for? I know it's something similar to the resources in Africa. How much does this reflect the mood around the summit?
It's really quite interesting because the protesters were out earlier this morning, sitting outside of the venue for the summit this year, and they were basically reeling off the list climate polluters and how much, or rather how many climate change related disasters have happened in the world in about the past 5 to 7 or 10 years. And when they titled up the bill, what they got was over $5 trillion worth of disasters has been what has happened in the past 10 years. That's correct. In the past 10 years that we've been following the climate change issues. Now, what they're basically saying is, yes, while Africa wants to drill, it needs to be done well, but they're also demanding that the West in particular pay for the damages. It's data that has shown us that, unfortunately for the African continent, while we are polluting under about 3% of the greenhouse gases, what we are finding is that we are feeling the oversized effects of climate change. You can talk about the number of typhoons and climate disasters that have happened on the continent in the past 5 years, the infrastructure that has been affected, the thousands, if not millions of lives that have been affected and also lost because of climate changes. So they tallied up a bill of about $5 trillion as to what climate polluters owe due to the climate change incidences that have happened in the past 10 years. So they're not saying necessarily that Africa shouldn't drill. Africa should not also, of course, look for ways to find finance its resource-rich environments, but they're saying that those who've already done this, who've already led us to where we are now, need to take responsibility, need to pay, I guess we'd say, a form of reparations for what they've done, and of course need to be held accountable for how things have gone so far.
Lulokbe Adilo Balogun bringing us the update from Cape Town, South Africa on the 5th edition of the Africa Energy Week, and definitely we'll have more updates from that subsequently. We'll go on a short break now. When we come back, the 12 report continues. We'll be talking about the security state in Nigeria, where residents of Kirawa community in Gaza are appealing for military presence as they assess damages from a Boko Haram attack. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. Let's talk security now. Residents of Kirawa community in Gaza, Borno State, are appealing for military presence as they assess damages from a Boko Haram attack. On Monday night, Boko Haram burned shops and houses, and during the clash, the local civilian joint task force killed one insurgent. Women, children, and CJTF members surveyed the destruction, highlighting the community's ongoing vulnerability. The appeal follows repeated attacks, with locals urging stronger security to protect the border town and its people from further violence. Ironically, News Central's Umoru Kirawa is standing by to give us more update on Kirawa community. Umoru Kirawa, it's quite a sad development. What are people clamoring for? We see that they're asking for more security presence, but isn't this what they have been asking for the longest time?
Yes, unfortunately, Kirawa, a border town in Nigeria's Gaza local government area, which was resettled by the Borno state government in 2022. Then the men and officers of the multinational joint task force were there operating. Unfortunately, due to persistent attack, and unfortunately, even the multinational joint task force, Nigerian army are not part of the soldiers of the MNJTF. It's only Cameroonian soldiers that are guarding the Nigerian border in Kirawa town. And the persistent attack in the community has led to the withdrawal of the MNJTF in the community, which has made the community more vulnerable, the border town more vulnerable, and the people vulnerable, hence resorting to sleeping in Cameroon. During late night hours, some of them move to Cameroon and sleep, and during the daytime, they come back to Nigeria. And that is why they are pleading with the Nigerian authorities to look into the possibility of deploying security personnel, armed forces in the border town, so that they will coalesce with the civilian JTF, hunters and vigilantes of the community to ensure the security of the border town.
Well, this is quite inhumane. I'm seeing some of the attacks, and unfortunately, this has gone on for a long time. I mean, we sat down here about a month ago to still talk about the Kirawa community. Has there been any response from the security agencies, from the heads of that region? Have they said anything regarding this?
Well, if there is one voice that continues to make a call with regard to the persistent attack in the community, is the senator representing Southern Borno, Senator Mohammed Alindume, which earlier we spoke with him with regard to the incident, and he keeps pleading with the Nigerian authorities to ensure the deployment of the security forces to ensure the security and safety of the people in the community. But by and large, the civilian JTF in the community have resisted the attacks. In fact, the attack yesterday, Monday night, the civilian JTF were able to kill one of the terrorists in the community, and some of the terrorists had no option but to retreat after burning houses, shops, and of course, they also killed one member of the community, one young boy, and then they abducted one person too.
Thank you for the updates, and we're hoping that this incessant killings stop and something is done about it. Thank you once again. Let's move now to the Imo State capital, Owerri, which is on lockdown as President Bola Tinubu visits today to inaugurate key infrastructure projects completed under Governor Hope Uzodinma's administration. Security has been tightened across the city, with several roads cordoned off and checkpoints mounted at strategic locations, forcing many residents into long treks. In a show of pageantry, public school pupils lined the streets waving Nigerian flags as the state rolled out a colorful welcome for the president's arrival in the heartland state. My colleague, News Central's Austin Azu, is on standby for update on this. Austin Azu, thanks for joining us. We've seen the security build up in Owerri. This has caused a lot of people to trek. What more can you tell us about the atmosphere on ground as the president arrives? We see the excitement, that the pupils have, lined up, welcoming the president. What more can you tell us about that?
Yes, no blessing. Where we are currently, we are at the rebuilt Owerri, Mbise, Bowo, and Umaya Road, and this road connects so many communities, leads you directly into Umaya.
Apologies for that. We'll try to reconnect with Austin as soon as we can. Now, as Nigeria turns 65, the federal government has cancelled the parade earlier scheduled to mark Nigeria's 65th independence anniversary on Wednesday, the 1st of October. The announcement was contained in a statement issued on Monday by the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. It added that the government regrets any inconvenience caused, but stressed that other activities lined up for the anniversary will proceed as scheduled. These include the traditional presidential broadcast, cultural programs, and the grand finale of the national campus debate. So talking about Nigeria marking 65 years of independence with a call for all hands to be on deck in building a greater nation. At a World Press Conference in Abuja, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Muhammadu Idris, alongside the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, outlined activities leading up to October 1st. These include a national campus debate on Tuesday and the President's broadcast on Independence Day. Officials say the celebrations are deliberately modest, urging citizens to reflect on shared responsibility for peace, unity, and progress.
At 65, Nigeria is still a work in progress. But with a renewed hope, shared responsibility, and collective resolve, our best days lie ahead. Little plans truly be on deck for a greater, stronger, and more prosperous Nigeria.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, is doing the needful. He is committed, he is courageous, and he is also a visionary leader that is gradually dismantling the stubborn clocks in the way of our national progress. Under the renewed hope agenda and its 8 priority areas, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is laying the building blocks for a national renewal anchored on prosperity, peace, and unity.
Health, they say, is wealth. But how much of this wealth can Nigerians boast of today? The nation's journey in the health sector, as in several others, has been marked by inadequate funding and policy inconsistency. News Central's correspondent, May Abubakar, in this report, examines how this critical sector has evolved in the 65 years of our nationhood in continuation of our assessment of Nigeria's developmental strides since independence.
In 1960, Nigeria inherited a very limited health infrastructure, few medical schools, hospitals largely in cities, basic diagnostic tools, limited access in rural areas. Over the decades, there was significant expansion of more medical schools, from just one in 1960 to many today. Establishment of the University College Hospital Ibadan as a center of excellence, introduction of modern diagnostic tools, the ultrasound, CT, MRI, and national policies to improve immunization and control of diseases like malaria.
When I reflect on the Nigeria we envisioned at independence, and even more so during my years of service in government, healthcare was never meant to be a luxury for the privileged or the urban elite. It was to be a fundamental right.
We had the good luck of having late Professor Ransom Kuti, who gave life to primary health care and made it a benchmark and made it a place to go. At that point, we knew that our immunization coverage was high, double digits, and interventions were working at that level.
There are no doctors who want to go there because the motivation to go to this underserved environment is not there. Even those in urban settlements, the government is not remunerating them the incentive to doctors there.
Even as Nigeria's health sector grew, recurring crises have tested it, from epidemics to industrial unrest. Health workers have frequently gone on strike for better pay, improved working conditions, and welfare. In the year 2000, resident doctors struck for 3 months over salary arrears and working conditions. In 2021, doctors under the National Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, began an indefinite strike over unpaid allowances during COVID-19. Most recently, nurses won in strikes over pay and staffing issues ended in agreements but reflect ongoing tension.
Industrial disputes or industrial disharmony has the potential to cut short the progress of work within the health care system, because within that time frame, there is likely going to be complications as a result of patients who are seeking health care in the facility, in a public health facility, not being able to meet with doctors.
Before, we have a lot of staff available to attend to patients, but these days you can see that we have limited staff in various wards.
Today, maternal mortality remains very high, over 1,000 deaths per 100,000 lives births in recent years. Many Nigerians in rural areas still travel long distances for care. Some public hospitals are understaffed or lack essential drugs, while programs like the Midwife Service Scheme have tried to bring skilled birth attendants to remote communities. Many infrastructure and funding challenges persist.
Millions of Nigerians still walk miles to reach a health post. Still, many die from preventable situations and conditions.
Matsalan da muke da shi, an samu ci gaba na yawan asibitoci, an samu ci gaba na yawan likitoci, amma an samu failure ko rashin ci gaba wajen biyan likitoci.
This national health insurance scheme that they registered us, if you have any cause that you are drugged past 1,000 naira, they will refer you to their clinics or hospital. You should go there. They don't have in stock.
They should develop the villages so that they will have more improvement in doctors. In some hospitals, they will have like primary health care close by. In case of anything emergency will come, they can help.
Nigeria's health story at 65 is one of meaningful growth and also recurring setbacks. Strikes, underinvestment and access gaps are as much part of the story as immunization and emergency responses. The health experts and everyday Nigerians agree sustainable funding, better infrastructure and trust built through consistent service are key to the next chapter. In Abuja, for News Central, Sumaya Abubakar.
Still to come, Netanyahu backs Trump's plan for Gaza peace deal, rejects Palestinian state. We'll bring you the details after the break. Stay with us. Let's take a look at business. Nigeria's tax system is undergoing a historic reform, exempting food, education, transport, and agriculture from VAT to ease the burden on citizens and businesses. FIRS Executive Chairman Zach Adedeji credited President Tinubu for fulfilling his promise to simplify tax compliance through new laws effective January 2026. The reforms consolidate tax laws, reduce tax types, and raise thresholds for individuals and small businesses. Tax to GDP ratio has improved to 13.5%, boosting government revenue and debt repayment. FIRS will be renamed Nigeria Revenue Service to reflect its broader role. Adedeji stressed that compliance improvements and government support are easing transitional challenges. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPC, has signed a new 2-year crude supply agreement with Dangote Petroleum Refinery to ensure steady delivery of crude, especially in Naira. Effective from August 2024 to 2026, the deal allocates 82 million barrels, 60% paid for in Naira, to 650,000 barrels per day Lekki-based refinery. This follows a brief halt in Naira-based petrol sales by Dangote, later reversed after government intervention. The agreement, backed by the Crude for Naira initiative, aims to stabilize local fuel supply. Marketers hailed the move, urging inclusion of modular refineries, while government committees reaffirmed their commitment to uninterrupted crude supply and energy security. The Nigerian Exchange Limited opened the week positively, with investors gaining 115 billion naira on Monday, pushing market capitalization to 90.1 trillion naira. The all-share index rose by 0.17% to 142,377.54 points, driven by strong performances in banking and oil and gas stocks like Fidelity Bank, Zenith Bank, and Seplat. Despite a drop in volume and value traded, corporate earnings boosted sentiment. Zenith Bank, Stanbic IBTC, and UBA posted mixed results, while GTCO saw profit decline. Analysts highlighted market resilience amid macroeconomic pressures. The ASI is up 38.33% year-to-date, with investors urged to stay cautious and diversify despite bullish outlook. The news continues in North Africa, where dozens of young protesters have been detained in Rabat as demonstrations continue into their third day, demanding urgent reforms in education and public health in Morocco. The youth-led protests, organized by a movement known as Gen Z 212, have shaken Morocco for the past 3 days, with calls for improved schools, hospitals, and accountability from the government. The protests were partially sparked by widespread outrage following the deaths of 8 pregnant women at a public hospital in Agadir, which raised concerns over the state of healthcare. With many detainees being released, the protests highlight significant youth discontent with government priorities, especially in light of Morocco's preparations to host international events like the 2030 FIFA World Cup. We shift attention to the Middle East tension, where U.S. President Donald Trump has introduced a 20-point Gaza peace plan, receiving tentative support from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The proposal, also shared with Arab leaders, outlines a ceasefire, the release of hostages, the disarmament of Hamas, and a phased Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. The plan includes a transitional authority led by Trump alongside international figures, a stabilization force, and border openings for aid and investment. Hamas members rejecting violence would receive amnesty, but would be excluded from future governance. While Netanyahu indicated general support, he emphasized continued Israeli security control over Gaza. Reactions from Hamas and Palestinian leadership remained unclear. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has clarified that no agreement was made regarding the creation of a Palestinian state during his recent talks with U.S. President Donald Trump in Washington. He said the proposed Gaza peace plan includes no mention of Palestinian statehood and reaffirmed Israel's firm position or opposition to such an outcome. For more on this, I'm joined by our senior international correspondent and anchor, Afia Hagan. Afia, can you give us a bit more detail on the 20-point peace plan set out by Netanyahu and Trump as of yesterday?
Quite a detailed plan that has been set out by the two leaders. Look, the first thing is the immediate cessation of military operations in Gaza, and then, of course, the release of the hostages within 72 hours. We've got 20 living hostages. They also want the remains of those hostages who have unfortunately passed away in captivity to be released as well. Hundreds of Palestinians also to be released by Israel for Hamas to lay down arms and have no governing role in Gaza. Once both sides agree to the proposal, full aid to be immediately sent into the Gaza Strip as well, and future governance of the Gaza Strip should be adopted by a technocratic apolitical Palestinian committee, which should be headed by former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair.
So what has been the reaction to this particular plan?
A strong reaction has come from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu himself, who posted a video on Telegram. And in that video, he says that they have not agreed to a Palestinian state being created, whereas in the 20-point plan, it's written that once Gaza development and reform of the Palestinian Authority takes place, the conditions may finally be in place for a credible pathway to Palestinian self-determination and statehood. Now, you have countries like France, the United Kingdom, Canada have recognized the Palestinian state in the past couple of weeks. And so while you have UK Prime Minister, for instance, Keir Starmer saying, we call on all sides to come together and work with the US administration to finalize this agreement and bring it into reality. The reality is, if in this plan there is no Palestinian state mentioned, and if Benjamin Netanyahu is saying that there cannot be a Palestinian state, then it should not get this broad support from around the world. The creation of a two-state solution and the Palestinian state should be written into any agreement if both sides want to move forward. And that potentially could be a big sticking point for Hamas, who we know are yet to agree to this plan.
All right, thank you, Althea Hagen, a senior international correspondent and anchor. That's the update on Gaza peace deal, and we look forward to seeing how that turns out. Let's come back to Nigeria. The Department of State Services has arraigned the convener of the Revolution Now protest, Omoyele Sowore, over allegedly posting false statements about President Bola Tinubu intended to cause a breakdown of law and order on his verified X handle. Now, Sowore was cited at the Federal High Court in Abuja ahead of the arraignment. The suit, which was filed on September 16th following the request by the DSS mandating Sowore to take down the tweet, a request he refused. The DSS is alleging that Sowore breached provisions of Section 24 of the Cybercrimes Prohibition and Prevention Act of 2024.
Nigerian police is so bad that car thieves can steal police cars in this country. They didn't steal it from the DPOs, or they stole from the force headquarters. It is unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. The last time something ridiculous like that happened with the Nigerian police was when the police in Kwara State also arrested a goat for armed robbery. That's the last time something that ridiculous ever came out of Nigeria. But it must break your heart. It sounds funny that car thieves can go to the Nigerian Police Force headquarters and take a patrol car, one of their best, and drive it away. And as we are speaking, they are still looking.
All right, we're going on a short break now, and when we come back, we've got more stories. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Now, rescue teams in Indonesia continue to search for survivors after the tragic collapse of an Islamic school building in East Java, which has so far claimed 3 lives with 38 people missing. According to the National Search and Rescue Agency, 102 people were inside the building during the collapse. 99 have been rescued. The police spokesperson has confirmed that the unauthorized addition of 2 floors caused the foundation to fail during concrete pouring. Authorities have launched an investigation into the incident, highlighting the urgent need for better enforcement of construction safety regulations in Indonesia.
Kita fokus pada yang masih hidup ya. Fokus sudah yang masih hidup. Kita tentunya kita juga perlu hati-hati sekali karena kondisi bangunan yang runtuh itu, pemiringannya itu masih memungkinkan sekali untuk runtuh kembali. Masih banyak sekali yang masih terdengar untuk menangis atau menjerit ya. Artinya mereka masih hidup.
Flooding caused by Typhoon Bualoi has left thousands of families cut off in villages in central Vietnam. The typhoon made landfall late on Sunday, packing winds of 130 kilometers per hour and remaining over land for almost 12 hours. At least 19 people have been killed. The typhoon battered small islands in the center of the Philippines last week, toppling trees and power pylons, unleashing floods and forcing 400,000 people to evacuate. Scientists warn that storms are becoming more powerful as the world warms due to the effect of human-driven climate change. After 5 years of financial strangulation, Nigeria's central bank just loosened its grip by 0.5 percentage point. It's the economic equivalent of loosening your belt by 1 inch after a massive meal and calling it weight loss. Now this week, the CBN trimmed the monetary policy from 27.5% to 27%, marking the first cut since 2020. To understand why this matters, think of the MPR as Nigeria's chop money rule. It dictates how expensive borrowing becomes for everyone, from small businesses to families buying homes. When it's high, credit becomes punishingly expensive, but inflation gets choked. And when it drops, loans get cheaper, but prices can spiral. The numbers behind this decision tell a cautiously optimistic story. Inflation cooled to 20.1% in August, after peaking about 33% in 2024, while GDP grew 4.23% in Q2 of 2025. Now, for policymakers who've been walking the tightrope between crushing inflation and strangling growth, these figures were apparently enough to risk a tiny step back. But let's be brutally honest, 27% is still astronomical. Compare that with South Africa's 8.25%, or even Ghana's 29%, and you realize Nigeria is still in the economic emergency room. This 0.5% cut won't suddenly make loans affordable or bring down the cost of bread overnight. It's more symbolic than substantial, a whisper of hope rather than a shout of relief. The real question isn't whether the central bank has the courage to cut rates. It's whether ordinary Nigerians like myself and you will even feel any meaningful difference in their daily struggles with food, with fuel, and school fees. Nigeria just took its first tentative step back from financial extremes. But until the cost of living reflects this relief, until the market women can feel this relief, until I can feel it, the rate cut feels less like economic recovery and more like policymakers daring to breathe while ordinary citizens are still holding their breath. Will the whisper of relief translate into tangible change? Only time and cautious borrowers will tell. And that's your postscript. Now, before we wrap up, let's take a look at what's happening in the sporting world. The South Africa Football Association has confirmed it will appeal FIFA's decision to deduct 3 World Cup qualifying points after Bafana fielded ineligible midfielder Teboho Mokoena against Lesotho. Udoka Onjoko, are you ready for us?
Of course, blessings. We look forward to more updates from the FIFA World Cup qualifiers because, yes, South Africa has been deducted 3 points, but they said they will appeal that decision. And, of course, this gives advantage to Benin Republic, who are currently top of the table, and Nigeria, with their calculators and permutations, hoping to see that silver lining to qualify for the World Cup. We'll bring you more details on in the game, which begins shortly.
Well, you've heard it. Stay tuned on In the Games. And that's all on the 12th report today. And remember, before we go, do also send your eyewitness report because we want to see what you see. Send it to the WhatsApp number showing on the screen and follow us across all social media platforms. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Blessings Masuku.